The crystal chandeliers cast golden light across the ballroom of the Roosevelt Hotel, where Manhattan's elite gathered for the annual Children's Hospital Charity Gala. Celeste Harper stood behind the coat check counter, her fingers smoothing the wrinkles from her borrowed black dress for the 100th time that evening. At 23, she had learned to make herself invisible at these events, a skill perfected over 2 years of working every high society function she could book. Her grandmother's medical bills demanded it. The evening had been unremarkable until he walked in. Julian Westbrook moved through the crowd like he owned not just the room, but the very air within it. Celeste recognized him immediately from the business magazines that lined the library where she worked during the day. At 35, he had built Westbrook Properties into a real estate empire that reshaped city skylines. His tailored tuxedo fit perfectly across broad shoulders, and his dark hair held just enough silver at the temples to make him devastating. Celeste watched as women gravitated toward him, their laughter too bright, their touches too lingering. He accepted their attention with practiced charm, but his steel-gray eyes remained distant, calculating. This was a man who had learned to perform affection without feeling it. She turned her attention back to organizing claim tickets, trying to ignore the flutter in her chest. Men like Julian Westbrook existed in a different universe, one where coat check girls were part of the furniture. 2 hours into the gala, Celeste was retrieving a first stole when she heard raised voices near the entrance. A woman in a scarlet gown was berating a waiter over a champagne stain on her sleeve. The young server looked close to tears, apologizing repeatedly while the woman's voice grew sharper. Celeste grabbed a clean cloth and hurried over. "Excuse me," she said quietly, addressing the woman. "I have some club soda at my station that works wonders on champagne. If you would like, I can help." The woman whirled on her, fury in her eyes, but before she could speak, a deep voice cut through the tension. "That would be very kind." Julian Westbrook stood 3 feet away, his expression neutral, but his presence commanding enough that the angry woman immediately shifted her demeanor. "Oh, Julian, I did not see you there," she purred, the rage vanishing behind a practiced smile. "It is just a little accident." "Let the young lady help you," Julian said, his tone polite but final. "Then perhaps you could join me at table 6. I believe they are serving dinner soon." The woman agreed with exaggerated grace and followed Celeste to the coat check area. As Celeste worked on the stain, she felt eyes on her back. When she glanced over her shoulder, Julian was still watching, his head tilted slightly as if she were a puzzle he could not quite solve. After the woman departed with effusive thanks that rang hollow, Celeste returned to her station. She was surprised to find Julian waiting there, one hand in his pocket, the other holding a glass of whiskey. "That was well handled," he said. Celeste felt her cheeks warm. She was upset. People say things they do not mean when they are embarrassed. Most people would have let the waiter take the blame. Most people do not know what it is like to be the one blamed for accidents beyond their control. Something flickered in Julian's expression, a crack in the polished facade. Before he could respond, another guest called his name, and with a slight nod, he disappeared into the crowd. Celeste thought that would be the end of it. But an hour later, as she was preparing to close the coat check for the night, Julian returned. This time, he was alone, his bow tie loosened and his jacket draped over one arm. "I need to ask you something," he said without preamble. "Of course, sir. Are you looking for your coat?" "No." He stepped closer, and Celeste caught the scent of expensive cologne mixed with something warmer, more human. "I need someone honest. Someone real. Everyone in my world wants something from me. Money, connections, status. But you helped that woman even though she did not deserve it. You defended a stranger without expecting anything in return." Celeste swallowed hard, confused by the intensity in his gaze. "I do not understand what you are asking." "Work for me. Not at these events, at my company. I need an assistant, someone I can trust to tell me the truth instead of what they think I want to hear." The offer hung in the air between them, absurd and tempting in equal measure. Celeste thought of her grandmother's mounting hospital bills, the double shifts that left her exhausted, the constant fear of not being enough. But she also thought of the way this man looked at her, like she mattered, like she was more than invisible. Why me? she whispered. Because in a room full of people performing for my attention, you were the only one being genuine. Julian set his glass down on her counter. And because I have not met anyone who surprised me in 5 years, you did, twice in one night. Celeste's heart hammered against her ribs. This was insane. People like her did not get offers like this. Yet something in his eyes told her he was serious, desperately so. I have a request, she said, the words tumbling out before she could stop them. If I say yes, name it. She took a breath, feeling the weight of vulnerability. I need the salary to be enough to cover my grandmother's medical care. She is all I have, and she is dying. I work 3 jobs to pay for her treatment, but it is never enough. So if you want honesty from me, I am being honest now. I need this job not because I want to climb some corporate ladder, but because I am terrified of losing her. The confession left her exposed, raw. She expected him to retreat, to realize she came with complications he did not need. Instead, Julian extended his hand. Done. Full medical coverage for both of you, starting immediately. And Celeste, I am sorry about your grandmother. When their hands met, something electric passed between them. Julian felt it too. She could tell by the way his fingers tightened briefly before releasing hers. I will need you to start Monday, he said, his voice slightly rougher. Can you do that? Yes, good. He picked up his jacket, then paused. One more thing. What you said tonight about people not meaning what they say when embarrassed. Do you really believe that, or were you just being kind? Celeste considered the question, aware that he was testing her honesty. I believe people reveal who they are in moments of stress. Some reveal cruelty, some reveal grace. We choose which person we want to be. Julian smiled then, a real smile that transformed his entire face. It makes sense now. What does? Why, I cannot stop thinking about you. He left before she could respond, disappearing into the Manhattan night. Celeste stood alone in the empty coat check area. Her hands still tingling from his touch, her mind racing with the impossibility of what had just happened. She did not know that Julian sat in his car outside the hotel for 20 minutes, unable to drive away, replaying their conversation in his mind. He did not know why this shy woman with her borrowed dress and honest eyes had affected him so deeply. He only knew that something fundamental had shifted. For the first time in years, Julian Westbrook felt awake. And Celeste Harper, gathering her coat and purse, felt the first stirring of hope that maybe, just maybe, her life was about to change in ways she never dared to imagine. Neither of them could have predicted how right they were, or how much pain and beauty that change would bring. Monday morning arrived with rain that turned Manhattan's streets into rivers of gray. Celeste stood outside the glass tower that housed Westbrook Properties, her reflection staring back at her from the pristine windows. She wore her only business suit, navy blue, and slightly worn at the cuffs. Her dark hair pulled into a neat bun. Taking a steadying breath, she pushed through the revolving doors. The lobby was all marble and steel, intimidating in its perfection. A receptionist directed her to the 42nd floor, where Julian's executive suite occupied the entire level. When the elevator doors opened, she found herself facing a sleek waiting area, where a middle-aged woman with sharp eyes looked up from her desk. You must be Celeste Harper. I am Patricia, Mr. Westbrook's current executive assistant. He asked me to show you around before I transitioned to the legal department. Patricia's tone was professional, but curious. Over the next hour, she walked Celeste through the maze of responsibilities that would become her life. Julian's schedule was relentless, with back-to-back meetings, site visits, investor calls, and charity obligations. He required his coffee black at 7 in the morning, refused lunch meetings because he found them wasteful, and had a tendency to work until midnight when a project consumed him. He is brilliant but demanding, Patricia said as they stood outside Julian's office door. He does not tolerate incompetence, but he rewards loyalty. Treat him with honesty, and he will value you. Lie to him once, and you are done. The door opened, and Julian emerged, phone pressed to his ear. He nodded at Celeste, a flicker of something warm in his eyes, before disappearing into the conference room. The first week tested every limit Celeste had. She learned to anticipate Julian's needs before he voiced them, to read his moods in the set of his shoulders, to know when he needed silence and when he needed her input. He kept his promise about her grandmother's medical care, enrolling both of them in the company's premium health plan without fanfare. But it was the small moments that undid her carefully maintained professional distance. Like when she found him alone in his office at 9 at night, staring at architectural plans with exhaustion etched into his features. She brought him coffee without being asked. He looked up at her with such gratitude that her heart stumbled. "You should go home," he said quietly. "You have been here since 7 this morning, so have you. I own the company. I am allowed to be unreasonable with my time. That does not make it healthy." Julian set down his pen, studying her. "Most assistants would not dare question my habits. You hired me to be honest, remember?" He smiled, that rare, genuine smile that made him look younger. "So I did. Thank you for the coffee, Celeste." She turned to leave, but his voice stopped her. "Your grandmother, how is she doing?" Celeste glanced back, surprised. "Better, actually. The new treatment plan is helping." "Thank you for asking. I meant what I said at the gala. I am sorry she is ill." The sincerity in his voice cracked something open inside her. Before she could respond, her phone buzzed with a text from the night nurse. Her grandmother had taken a turn. "I have to go," Celeste said, her voice tight with panic. Julian was on his feet instantly. "What happened?" "My grandmother. She is having trouble breathing. I need to get to the hospital. Take my car. The driver will get you there faster than a taxi." "I cannot. That is too much." "Celeste." His hand caught hers, warm and steady. "Let me help." She nodded, grateful beyond words, and rushed to the elevator. What she did not see was Julian grabbing his own coat, making a call, and following her to the hospital 20 minutes later. He found her in the ICU waiting room, hunched in a plastic chair with her face in her hands. When she looked up and saw him, confusion and relief warred in her expression. "What are you doing here? I wanted to make sure you were all right. You did not have to come." Julian sat beside her, close enough that their shoulders touched. I know, they sat in silence for a long time. Finally, Celeste spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "She raised me, you know. My parents died in a car accident when I was 8. My grandmother took me in without hesitation, even though she was already struggling on a teacher's pension. She gave me everything. She sounds remarkable. She is." Celeste wiped at her eyes. "I do not know what I will do when she is gone." Julian's hand found hers, fingers intertwining. "You will survive because she taught you how to be strong, and you will not be alone." The simple promise shattered her composure. Celeste turned into his shoulder and wept while Julian held her, his arms a fortress against the fear. When the doctor finally emerged with cautiously optimistic news, Celeste sagged with relief. Her grandmother was stabilized, sleeping peacefully with improved oxygen levels. "You should go home and rest," the doctor said. "We will call if anything changes." Celeste nodded numbly. Julian guided her to his car, but instead of taking her to her tiny apartment in Queens, he brought her to his penthouse in Tribeca. "I cannot stay here," she protested weakly. "You are exhausted, and I have 4 guest rooms. Pick one, sleep, and I will take you to visit your grandmother in the morning." Too tired to argue, Celeste let him show her to a bedroom that was larger than her entire apartment. He left her with soft pajamas, a new toothbrush, and instructions to ask for anything she needed. She woke at 3 in the morning, disoriented and thirsty. Padding into the kitchen, she found Julian standing at the floor-to-ceiling windows, staring out at the city lights with a glass of whiskey in his hand. "Cannot sleep?" she asked softly. He turned, and in the darkness, his defenses were down. "Old habit. I have not slept well in years." "Why?" Julian was quiet for a long moment. "My father built this company from nothing. When he died, I was 25 and terrified I would destroy his legacy. I worked 20-hour days, sacrificed everything, proved myself to everyone except myself. Somewhere along the way, I forgot how to rest." Celeste moved closer. "That sounds lonely." It was. It is. He set down his glass. Until recently, their eyes met, and the air between them changed. Charged with everything they had not said. Celeste, Julian's voice was rough. I need to tell you something. She waited, heart pounding. When I hired you, I told myself it was because you were honest and capable. But that was not the only reason. He stepped closer. I could not stop thinking about you. The way you defended that waiter, the way you looked at me like I was just a man instead of a bank account. I have not felt anything real in so long, and then you appeared, and suddenly I could not breathe without wondering what you were thinking. I am your assistant, she whispered. I know. And if this makes you uncomfortable, we can pretend I never said anything. But I needed you to know. You are not just an employee to me, Celeste. You have not been since that first night. Celeste's hands trembled. I think about you too. All the time. But I do not know how to be what someone like you needs. Someone like me. Someone sophisticated, experienced. I have never even, she faltered, her cheeks burning. I have never been with anyone. Not like that. Julian's expression softened with tenderness that made her ache. Do you think that matters to me? It should? I am nothing like the women you usually date. Exactly. His hands cupped her face. Celeste, those women bored me senseless. You terrify me because for the first time in a decade, I care about something more than business. I care about you. When he kissed her, it was gentle, reverent, asking rather than taking. Celeste melted into him, her inexperience making her hesitant, but her feelings making her brave. They stood in the darkened kitchen, the city sprawling below them, and discovered what it felt like to be truly seen. They pulled apart slowly, foreheads touching. What happens now? Celeste asked now. Julian said, smiling, we take this one day at a time. No pressure, no expectations. Just us being honest with each other, I can do that. Good. He kissed her forehead. Now go back to sleep. Tomorrow is going to be a long day. But as Celeste returned to her room, she knew sleep was impossible. Everything had changed, and for the first time since her grandmother's diagnosis, she felt something other than fear. She felt hope. The next 3 months unfolded like a dream Celeste was afraid to wake from. She and Julian navigated their relationship with careful deliberation, keeping their growing connection private while maintaining professionalism at work. He courted her with a patience that belied his reputation for ruthless efficiency, taking her to quiet restaurants, late-night walks along the Hudson, and Sunday mornings at art museums. Her grandmother's health stabilized. And Celeste visited her every evening, often bringing Julian along. The older woman adored him, seeing past the wealth to the lonely man beneath. You hold on to that one, she told Celeste during one visit. He looks at you like you hung the moon. But happiness, Celeste was learning, made some people uncomfortable. The trouble started when Vanessa Sterling returned to New York. Julian's ex-fiancée had spent 2 years in London after their spectacular breakup, and her reappearance sent ripples through Manhattan's social circles. She was everything Celeste was not, statuesque, impeccably educated. From a family whose name appeared on museum wings and hospital buildings, Celeste first saw her at a business, and in dinner she attended as Julian's date. Vanessa glided over, her smile sharp as glass. Julian, darling, she purred, kissing both his cheeks. I heard you had a new companion. How charming, Vanessa. Julian's voice was cool. This is Celeste Harper, the assistant. Vanessa's eyes raked over Celeste. How modern of you, Julian. Celeste felt the sting but kept her composure. It is nice to meet you, I am sure. Vanessa turned her attention back to Julian. We should have lunch soon. I have a business proposition that might interest you. For old time's sake, after Vanessa departed, Julian squeezed Celeste's hand. Ignore her. She thrives on making people uncomfortable. But the encounter planted seeds of doubt. That night, lying in Julian's arms in his penthouse, Celeste voiced the fears she had been harboring. She is beautiful, so are you, Julian murmured against her hair. She is from your world. She understands it in ways I never will. Julian shifted so he could see her face. Celeste, Vanessa, and I were together for 2 years. She wanted my name and my money. When I asked what she loved about me, She listed my properties, my connections, my portfolio. Not once did she mention anything about who I actually am, and what about me. What do I offer you? Peace. Julian's thumb traced her cheekbone. You make me want to be better, not richer. You remind me why I started building in the first place. You see me, Celeste? The real me. That is worth more than all the sophisticated understanding in the world. She wanted to believe him, but doubt, once planted, grew insidiously. The crisis came 3 weeks later. Celeste's grandmother suffered a massive stroke. By the time Celeste reached the hospital, the doctors were grim. Her grandmother had hours, maybe a day. Julian arrived within minutes of her call, holding her as she fell apart. I am not ready, she sobbed. I cannot lose her. I know, sweetheart. I am so sorry. They kept vigil through the night. Near dawn, her grandmother woke briefly, lucid and calm. She beckoned Celeste closer. My beautiful girl, she whispered. You have given me so much joy. Do not be afraid of what comes next. I am terrified of me dying or of living without me. Both her grandmother's eyes found Julian standing respectfully near the door. That one loves you properly. Let him, Grandma. I do not know if I am enough for his world. Child, you are enough for any world. Promise me you will not make yourself small to fit into someone else's life. Make them expand to fit into yours. I promise. Her grandmother smiled and closed her eyes. She passed 20 minutes later with Celeste holding her, hand in Julian's arms around them both. The funeral was small, but heartfelt. Julian handled all the arrangements, giving Celeste space to grieve while ensuring she never felt alone. In her darkest moments, he was there, solid and unwavering. But grief made Celeste vulnerable. Vanessa struck when she was weakest. 2 days after the funeral, Celeste received an email at work. It contained photos of Julian and Vanessa having lunch, laughing, her hand on his arm. The message was brief. He always comes back to his own kind. Do yourself a favor and leave before he discards you. Celeste stared at the photos, her grief amplifying every insecurity. When Julian returned from a site visit, he found her clearing out her desk. What are you doing? He demanded. She showed him the email without speaking. Julian's jaw tightened. This is Vanessa trying to manipulate you. That lunch was her ambushing me with investors. I told her I was not interested in any business with her. Maybe she is right. About what? About me not belonging in your life. I am broken right now, Julian. My grandmother is gone, and I do not know who I am without her. You deserve someone whole, someone who can stand beside you without falling apart. Julian took her hands. Celeste, look at me. She did, tears streaming down her face. When my father died, I spent 6 months barely functioning. I made terrible decisions, pushed everyone away, and convinced myself that feeling nothing was better than feeling everything. He wiped her tears with his thumbs. You are not broken. You are grieving. And I am not going anywhere. Your ex-fiancé is circling like a shark. Your world thinks I am a gold digger. I am exhausted from trying to prove I deserve you. You do not have to prove anything to anyone, including me. Julian pulled her close. I love you, Celeste Harper. Not because you are perfect or sophisticated or from the right family. I love you because you make me want to build a life, not just a portfolio. I love you because you saw a frightened waiter and chose kindness. I love you because when I am with you, I remember what it feels like to be human. I love you too. So much it scares me, then let it scare us both. Together, Celeste clung to him, feeling the truth of his words sink into her bones. Vanessa could send 1,000 emails. The doubts could whisper endlessly. But this, what she and Julian had built, was real. What do we do about Vanessa? She asked. Julian smiled, and there was steel in it. We show her exactly who we are. The following week, Julian organized a press conference. Standing before cameras with Celeste at his side, he announced a new initiative, the Harper Foundation. Named in honor of Celeste's grandmother, the foundation would provide housing and medical care for low-income families. funded by 20% of Westbrook Properties' annual profits. My partner, Celeste Harper, will lead this effort, Julian told the assembled reporters. She understands what these families face because she lived it. She has taught me that true success is not measured in buildings constructed, but in lives improved. Celeste spoke briefly, her voice steady despite her nerves, about her grandmother's legacy and the importance of giving back. When a reporter asked about their relationship, Julian answered without hesitation, "Celeste is the best decision I have ever made, professionally and personally." The response was overwhelming. Some critics sneered, but the positive support drowned them out. And Vanessa, realizing she had lost, quietly left New York again. 6 months later, Celeste stood in the completed community center, the Harper Foundation's first project. Families filled the space, children playing, parents attending job training workshops, elderly residents receiving free medical checkups. Julian found her watching from the doorway. A soft smile on her face. "She would have loved this," Celeste said. "She would have been proud of you." Celeste turned to him. "Thank you for not giving up on me when I tried to run. Thank you for teaching me what love actually feels like." Julian took her hand. "I have something to ask you." He dropped to one knee, pulling a simple, elegant ring from his pocket. "Celeste Harper, you walked into my life and reminded me what it means to be alive. Will you marry me?" Through tears and laughter, Celeste said yes. They married in the community center 6 months later, surrounded by family from both worlds, rich and poor, proving that love required no pedigree. Celeste wore her grandmother's pearls. Julian cried during his vows. As they danced their first dance, Celeste whispered, "I still cannot believe this is real." "Believe it," Julian murmured. "You made a request that night at the gala, and I could not stop thinking about you. Best decision I never knew I needed. What about now? Do you still think about me?" "Every single moment. And I plan to for the rest of our lives." Celeste rested her head on his shoulder, feeling the steady beat of his heart. Her shy request for help had transformed into a love that changed both their lives. And somewhere, she knew her grandmother was. Smiling, "Thank you for taking time to listen to this story if you enjoyed this content. Don't forget to hit like, share this story with your friends and family, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on more meaningful stories."